All right, how's everyone today? Pretty good. Pretty good to great. That's awesome. All right, well, we are in week 4, which means next week's the halfway point. This is going quickly, but we're in good shape. Bought yourself some additional RAM. Excellent. RAM is good. I do kind of miss the days of like upgrading desktops when you get like, a new modem card that would go like, 19K instead of 9.6. It was always fun. All right, well, let's see. So I graded PA2. I posted comments and grades for that this morning. You can still use your modems. You can get rid of your Ethernet and just like connect all your home machines through a slip network or something. You don't need a phone line, you just need some copper. Go old school. All right, so PA2 is graded. So really nice work on the second programming assignment. So it looks like people understand the notion of using a class, as a class, creating an object, and then using the methods inside that, and so on. And all of PA2 can be done without dealing with classes per se, right? You can write C and Java. Most people didn't do that. Most people actually sort of, embrace the idea of objects and stuff, which is good. So any sort of parting reflections on PA2? Did it make more sense at the end than at the beginning, perhaps? Way easier than I thought it would be. Yep. Yeah, and when I've done something similar to this in 224 or 222, it's usually a lot more complex because you're making your own hash maps or linked lists or pieces like that. Java feels a lot like putting a bunch of parts together rather than thinking about explicit details. Really good synopsis of object-oriented programming right there in that sentence. That's really the idea, and this is why we can build large-scale software systems without needing a team of 100 developers every time. If you play around with like Android development, right, you can sit down and crank out an Android app, in 15 minutes. That'll have, visual elements and buttons you click and it does things and it figures out where you are with GPS and it sends a message through the network, and it's all just, it's all sitting in there and it's just telling these building blocks what you want them to do, how you put them together. And that's really fun from a programming perspective. I mean, it's also fun to be down at the lowest level manipulating the ones and zeros, but it's its own kind of fun to be working at such a high level with these really, really super powerful Lego blocks that have all this capability inside them. So that's cool. Yeah, and you can make apps for old tablets and phones and good stuff like that. I never figured out how to make apps for my watch, though. I mean, it should be the same process, but every time I try, I seem to run into weird errors. But every now and then I go back to it, make like a prime number generator on my Android watch. So just for kind of comparison's sake, right? So this is a undocumented version of an indexer class that I put together when I was developing this assignment, and it's pretty small. Right? I mean, that's it. It's a little more than a page. But it's got all the pieces, right? So you know, your main object is an index, which is a hash map constructed as we described. The constructor, I don't have a constructor. I had a get index method, which you don't really need. But you know, processing the file is basically get an input from your file that you're processing, right? So use the next method. Clean it up. If it's not empty, go ahead and add it using the add reference method. Bump up the location, and when you're done, close the file. Right? That's your whole process file method, and that's the longest piece of the whole class. Right? That's the thing that does all the work, pulling in the file, breaking into words, and so on, to process it. The actual add reference is, you know, a few lines of Java. If there's no index, you haven't processed a file yet, right? So that just returns null, or returns right away. Otherwise, you know, see if the word's in the index. If it's not, put it in the index, and then get the linked list associated with the word and add to the last location. And then all of these things are just more method calls. And some people coded these with varying degrees of making them by handedness. If you want to count the number of times a word appears, right, you can find the linked list and you can start moving down and count how many nodes there are and so on. But once you pull the word out of the hash map, it has a size method. And if you call the size method, that'll tell you how many words are in that list, which means that's how many times that word appeared. And then total number of words is just, you know, the number of things in the hash map. That's just index.size. The nth location of a word, basically get the linked list, and the get method, if you pass an integer to it, it will give you the nth item in that list, which will be, you know, an integer, which corresponds to the location of the nth instance of that word. ToString, as we said, is just the index, the hash map's ToString method. And clean up, there's a variety of ways to do it, but that's what most people did. So we'll be making good use of this methodology when we do PA4 and PA5, which will be making GUIs and doing some networking and such. And then, as I said, if you move on and you do things like, you know, game development, Android development, stuff like that, you're generally not reinventing the wheel. You're not creating the code that, you know, manages the physics of a falling object. You're just, you know, constructing an actor as an instance of a class, and then there's methods for move and fall and stuff like that. And it's the same kind of feeling as what we were doing in PA2. So this is something we'll come back to again and again in this course, and you'll definitely encounter it in other courses. All right. I tried what I got bored. Yeah, I do have an Android watch that I got a long time ago. And it kind of works, but I don't know. It kind of doesn't. All right. Let's talk about if there's no questions on PA2. Yeah, mine's like Android, you know, 0.001 or something. If there's no questions on PA2, let's talk about PA3. So any issues that you're running into, and meanwhile, my camera has frozen, so I'm going to try to restart my camera. Which which only sort of worked. There's that. Let's try this. Resource temporarily unavailable. Okay. Wow. Alright, I'm going to turn off my screen share. And try this again. Well, we may be in trouble here. Alright, well, while I'm messing with this, questions on PA3.